Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and welcome to your episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the format out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day is, why do you think that Ashe hasn't gotten nerfed yet? You are definitely not the only one who was wondering this. When Ubisoft showcased the pick rates and win rates of all of the operators in this game, the one thing that immediately sticks out to you is that Ashe is in a league of her own in terms of popularity. She has a 70% pick rate and above average win rates. That's incredible. Like, that's almost to what Ella was when she was in her prime. A lot of people are asking the question based off of these charts, and I think rightfully so, why is IQ getting so many nerfs and Ashe isn't? Ashe has a much higher pick rate, significantly higher compared to IQ, and IQ's win rate isn't even as high as Ashe. And so why is she the one that's losing nades? Why is she the one that's seeing a nerf to her gadgets? Now, Ubisoft has responded to this and said that while Ashe might be a little bit too strong right now, it isn't anything too crazy, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. I feel like Ubisoft is in a bit of a predicament with her because she might just be popular because a lot of people just find her kit to be really satisfying, and how do you change her kit and nerf her without taking away that satisfaction and really the identity of what makes Ashe Ashe? Now, some people brought up the suggestion, well, why not just make her a 2-armor, 2-speed operator? That would solve the problem. And while you're probably right on that, I think that would just make her a less effective Zofia. Her entire kit revolves around being aggressive, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's okay to have operators that are really all about just getting on the objective as quickly as possible and using that speed to that advantage. That's just a playstyle that a lot of people enjoy. And that right there might get to the heart of the issue for why she is so popular. A lot of people like to play aggressively. That is just a playstyle that a lot of people enjoy, and she embodies that entirely. And so maybe isn't the fact that she's necessarily overpowered. Yes, her win rate is a little bit above average, but it's nothing too crazy, especially when compared to Finka, for example. It might be the reason why she just is picked so frequently is because she embodies what a lot of people enjoy doing while they play Rainbow Six Siege. Another suggestion that people have brought up is that maybe they could nerf her gadget somehow. Honestly, though, I have no idea how they'd be able to go about it. If you just look at the gadget and what it does, it's very simplistic and it doesn't do anything that's completely busted. It opens up holes and it allows you to take care of gadgets. How do you nerf that? They could drop the amount that you have down to 1, but I feel like that pushes things way too far. Like, it's already simplistic enough. If you drop it down any further, you just run the risk of just making it completely useless or having absolutely no impact on a match, which is something that you don't want. And then the final thing is that they could just try to nerf her weapons again. Honestly, I think this is really the only way that they could really nerf her further, but the issue with this, and something that Ubisoft has brought up, is that her weapons are already just in the middle of the road in terms of damage output. It has a fair amount of recoil for the R4C. I know a lot of people have mastered it, but it still has a fair amount of kick compared to some of the other weapons available, and its damage output isn't that crazy compared to something like the F2. Like, there are a lot of other way better weapons in this game that Ashe doesn't have access to. And so all in all, I can sort of see where Ubisoft is coming from on this one and why they haven't made any more changes to Ashe if we do look at it from this direction. I think what it really just comes down to is, once again, people enjoy that aggressive playstyle, and she's the best operator at doing that. And so maybe this isn't really necessarily a problem with Ashe, it's just showing that that's what the player base wants. People want that more aggressive role, and she allows those players to fulfill that. The next question comes from Jared, and it is, what do you think about a shield operator that has something like Jaeger's ADS attached to it? The operator could throw this ability up like Vigil's Cloak or Cav's Silence Step, and while it's active, it would intercept any defensive gadgets like C4 smoke nades, and he would have X amount of time to use this with a cooldown on it. So that's actually a really interesting idea. As you guys all know, one tactic that defense likes to use to try to stop offense from planting the diffuser is to use their gadgets. And so the idea of having an operator, let alone one that has a shield, so it's already hyper defensive, that can just simply click a button and then snag those gadgets out of the air, would make life a lot easier when you're trying to plant that diffuser. Like, that would be really, really strong. The thing is, though, and the issue I have with it, is that that sounds like it would be really, really strong. Especially at higher levels, how in the world are you ever going to be able to stop them from planting the diffuser? Imagine you had to go against a Monty, this new shield operator, and then basically anything else, because nothing else would matter at that point. You have the two shield operators enter in the room, you have the guy plant directly behind them, and you can't see them because they're blocked by the shields. You can't use their gadgets because this guy is going to snag them out of the air. You have no way of getting at that diffuser. It's basically an instant win for the offensive team. And so while on paper it sounds like it would add in a really cool dynamic, I think especially at higher tiers, it would just be one of the most overpowered operators that they could introduce into the game. You have to remember that those gadgets are specifically designed with dealing with shield operators. If you introduce someone that is able to counter the thing that's supposed to counter the shield that you're currently using, that just seems busted from the very concept. Maybe I'm not looking at it from the right angle. Maybe there'd be ways for our defense to be able to work around it. But I think if you look at it from that light, I don't really know if we would want to have something like that introduced into Rainbow Six Siege. The next question comes from Joe, and it is, what do you think about Ubisoft making a system where when you ping an enemy, the operator you're playing will actually verbally say the location of the enemy? So if your teammate pings someone, their operator will switch on a headset and say enemy spotted in secret tunnel or something along those lines. If this was implemented as an optional feature, then it would really help those of us who play solo most of the time, and it'll help those who can't afford a decent headset to hear footsteps. That would be incredible if they were able to pull that off. There's a lot of people that play this game that simply do not want to use their microphone. Either they're shy, they don't want to talk up, or they just simply do not have a microphone to use. And so to have a system in place that allows you to drone on in, you spot someone, and then your character literally says there's someone in the freezer would take things to the next level. Like if they were able to do that, that would be simply amazing. They could even try to take it a step further and introduce different type of ping commands. I believe that this is the way that it works in MOBA games like League of Legends. In League of Legends, you have pings for falling back, or if you want to indicate to your teammate that you're about to gank a character in top lane, you've got a ping that will relay that really quickly and make it very obvious. You could try to introduce that into Rainbow Six Siege. If you want to indicate to your thermite that you want this wall opened on up, not only could the color of the icon be different, maybe it turns into a blue, for example, but then your character says, open up this wall, so he knows exactly what you're trying to go for. They could even have one for maybe you need to fall back. You could have a lot of different commands that they could introduce that could relay that information, which could be very, very valuable. The one big issue with these suggestions, though, and it's a massive one, is that this would be a ridiculous investment on the part of Ubisoft. They would need to rehire all of their voice actors, and then those voice actors would need to make the callouts for every room on every single map. Especially if they were very specific, that would take an absurd amount of time. Now, they could sort of work around this by having simple callouts, like if you spot someone, your character will say, not the room, but it'll say that he's upstairs or downstairs or in the basement, for example. That would be a lot less complex, or especially with that command system that I just talked about, you know, having your character say fall back or open up this wall, like that would be easy, but to have callouts for every single room, I think is too much of a daunting task. And so while it's really cool, I love the idea, like if they're able to pull it off, I think it would add a lot to the game. I think many people would enjoy using it. I just don't see that happening anytime for Rainbow Six Siege. The next question comes from Dakota, and it is, I plan to buy Rainbow soon, but I was wondering what DLCs are worth buying. I don't want to waste any unnecessary money. Is the season pass worth it? Admittedly, that's a pretty difficult question to answer because I don't know what kind of player you are or what operators you're going to gravitate towards. I'm going to ignore year 3 because we don't have the full picture. It'd be hard to recommend something where we don't have a finished product yet, but year 1 and year 2 are both a solid lineup. In year 1, for example, you've got Hibana, which is one of the most popular operators on offense. Echo is definitely in the meta right now ever since his buff. Valkyrie is really potent. I know that people like to make fun of Blackbeard, but in the right hands, he's really good. You move on over into year 2, you've got Mira, which is one of the most influential operators that has ever been introduced. You've got Vigil, Legion, Dokkaebi is probably one of the better operators you can have on offense right now. But the thing is, though, is like both seasons have their strengths and weaknesses, and it really just depends on what kind of player that you are. And so my recommendation wouldn't be to buy the season pass right away unless you really want every single operator. You don't need to have everything at your fingertips right when you begin. Actually, it's probably a better idea to start slow, experiment with a couple, and then kind of branch on out. You may not even like Rainbow Six Siege. Like, let's be honest, it may not be a game for you. And so to make an even larger investment on a product that you're not completely sold on just yet might be something you want to hold off on. And then once you realize, oh, I really like the concept of Dokkaebi. I've been going against her for a while. She seems like she'd be amazing to have on my roster. Then you can make the decision to buy one of the other season passes. That would be my advice. Take your time, kind of let it sink on in, get a good grasp of what Rainbow Six Siege is all about, figure out what kind of player you are, and then make your decision. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you think that Ashe needs a nerf? Do you think that she's in a good place right now? Let me know down below in the comment section. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.